On March 7, 2026, Venus aligns with Neptune right in the first degrees of the constellation Aries. And this isn't just any alignment. It happens right after Neptune kicks off its 14-year journey through Aries. You can think of it as the moment a seed is planted for an entire era, one that's going to be defined by conflict, ideology, and some pretty radical transformation.
So to really get what this all means, we have to break down the forces at play here. It's like an archetypal collision.
First up, you've got Venus. Now, Venus governs things like capital, alliances, art, and diplomacy. It's basically the architecture of our financial systems, our international treaties, and even our shared cultural values. It's the cosmic glue holding society together.
Then there's Neptune. Neptune is a whole different beast. It rules over ideology, illusion, mass psychology, and propaganda. It's like this invisible current running through the collective unconscious, shaping mass movements and dissolving old ways of thinking.
And finally, the stage for all of this is Aries. As the very first sign of the zodiac, Aries is all about war, sovereignty, and initiation, taking forceful, unilateral action. It's that raw spark, impulsive, aggressive, and laser-focused on survival and conquest.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. Venus, which wants cooperative harmony, finds itself in Aries, which demands forceful action. We'd say Venus is in its detriment here. What that means is you get this huge systemic tension between the desire for diplomacy and this raw, unavoidable push for self-interest.
And when you mix these three ingredients together, well, the whole game changes. Diplomacy suddenly gets an aggressive edge. Finance goes off the rails into wild speculation. And even art, it becomes a kind of weapon. Now, this isn't just some abstract theory. If you look back through history, this exact same alignment shows up again and again, and it always coincides with these massive, seismic shifts in power, wealth, and belief.
Let's just look at the timeline. In 1861, this alignment marked the start of the American Civil War, a war of ideas financed by a currency backed only by belief. In 1533, King Henry VIII broke from the church, seizing its wealth all for ideological purity. In 1700, it saw the collapse of the Darien scheme, a speculative bubble that bankrupted an entire nation. And way back in 1206, Genghis Khan unified the Mongol tribes, forging a new empire and completely upending global trade.
So you see the themes, right? The pattern is stark. This alignment consistently flags periods of what are essentially holy wars, wild speculative manias, the rise of these uncompromising charismatic leaders, and the industrial-scale weaponization of narrative.
But there's something else happening this time. A second, even deeper alignment that makes the 2026 event uniquely potent. Just a few weeks before that Venus conjunction, another rare planetary event happens that basically sets the entire stage, acting as this profound catalyst.
I'm talking about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. The last time this happened was 1989. Think about that year for a second. The fall of the Berlin Wall, the sudden shocking collapse of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And this really tells you everything you need to know about the dynamic. When Saturn's hard, cold reality collides with Neptune's collective dream, old, obsolete global systems just break down. The trust people have in established institutions, it fractures. So here's how to think about it. The Saturn conjunction is the structural breakdown, that immense pressure building on the system. The Venus conjunction, that's the visible trigger. It's the moment the cracks become visible to everyone in our economies and our alliances.
So if we take this historical pattern and we overlay it onto our modern world, we can start to build a forecast for the period from 2026 to 2030. Broadly speaking, we should probably expect the breakdown of alliances we've taken for granted, the rise of incredibly sophisticated AI-driven propaganda, some really aggressive speculative bubbles, and a sharp cultural pivot toward rebellion and physical vitality.
When it comes to information, the line between what's real and what's ideology is going to get incredibly blurry. We're talking about narrative warfare hitting a whole new level, using AI, deepfakes, and synthetic media to romanticize conflict itself and manipulate mass psychology on a global scale.
And what about finance? Capital is going to move, and it's going to move aggressively, driven by this ideology of sovereignty. Money will pour into technologies that promise some kind of freedom from the old system. Think AI, defense tech, and decentralized finance. Our culture will absolutely reflect all this. Expect to see more aggressive aesthetics. Art and fashion will likely become more utilitarian, more defiant,
And you'll see a glorification of strength, with physical fitness becoming a symbol of personal sovereignty in a world that feels, to many, fundamentally sick.
But remember, the 2026 conjunction is only the ignition point. This kicks off a whole cycle that lasts until 2039, and it's probably going to unfold in 3 distinct phases.
So, from 2026 to 2030, we're looking at the most volatile period, disruptive ideological battles. Then, from about 2031 to 2035, you'll see new power structures emerge. The rebels of today become the new establishment. And finally, from 2036 to 2039, the theme will likely be collective exhaustion and a necessary transition toward rebuilding.
You know, they say history doesn't repeat, but it certainly echoes. And these patterns of the past offer a powerful framework for understanding the profound changes that are lying directly ahead of us.